The salty tang of sea air mixed with the warm, yeasty scent of fresh sourdough rising in the oven, that's what mornings felt like in Harbor's End, my little slice of heaven on the rugged Maine coast. I'd stand there in the dim light of the bakery, sleeves rolled up on my flannel shirt, watching the waves crash against the jagged rocks through the salt-crusted window. The creak of the wooden floorboards under my boots, the distant cry of gulls wheeling overhead, it was the rhythm of a life I'd fought tooth and nail to keep. Until that Tuesday in July, when Evelyn Hargrove decided my family's legacy was an eyesore on her perfect postcard. It was 7:15 a.m., the sun just peeking over the lobster buoys bobbing in the harbor, when my phone exploded with notifications. Not the good kind, like a rush order for blueberry muffins, but the flashing red lights of a 911 dispatch callback. Mr. Ellis, this is Officer Hale from Harbor's End PD. We received a call about a structure fire at your property. Ma'am claims your oven's exhaust is belching black smoke that's a clear and present danger to the historic district. I blinked, wiping flour from my hands onto my apron, the heat from the brick oven still radiating against my back like a guilty conscience. A fire. The only thing smoking was the kill I'd fired up for the morning batch of sea salt crackers, and that thing was as clean as a nun's habit. But there she was, striding up the gravel path to my front door like she owned the tide, Evelyn Hargrove, president of the so-called Harbor's End Heritage Preservation Society, clipboard in one manicured hand, designer rain boots squelching in the damp grass. Her silver bob haircut didn't dare ruffle in the breeze, and that pearl necklace around her neck screamed old money louder than a foghorn. Elliot Ellis, she barked, her voice sharp as a nor'easter, your archaic baking operation is in violation of Section 4.2 of the Heritage Code. Immediate cessation or face a 500 fine, and trust me, I've already notified the fire marshal. She thrust a laminated notice at me, the paper crisp and smelling faintly of expensive printer ink and her Chanel perfume. I took it, scanning the legalese gibberish, my stomach twisting like dough under a rolling pin. What would you do if some blue-blooded busybody showed up at your door, waving fake rules like a red flag at a bull, all because your family bakery dared to have a chimney that didn't match her Pinterest board? Would you laugh it off, or start kneading that rage into something unbreakable? Drop a comment below your coastal nightmare stories, your small-town tyrant tales. I bet they've got me beat. I'm Elliot Ellis, and 5 years ago, I thought reclaiming my grandfather's bakery would be the salve for a life that had crumbled like overbaked biscuits. Harbor's End isn't your glossy postcard Maine village, it's the real deal, weathered clapboard houses clinging to cliffs like barnacles, fishing boats creaking against weathered docks, and a perpetual mist that smells of brine and pine. Population 1,247 souls, give or take a seasonal influx of leaf peepers and lobster tourists. My family, the Ellises, had been the heartbeat of this place since 1892, when Grandpa Harlan turned a derelict sardine cannery into Ellis Bakery. That building's salt-eaten beams, a massive stone oven shipped from Boston, windows that rattled in the wind like old bones, had outlasted 2 world wars, a cod collapse, and my own personal apocalypse. I was 42, a widower with calluses on my hands and a hole in my chest the size of Lake Superior. My wife, Nora, had been the spark, fiery red hair, laugh like breaking waves. We met here, her sketching the harbor while I slung day-old scones to artists. Cancer took her in 2019, quick and cruel, leaving me with our 14-year-old son, Finn, and a mountain of bills that made the bakery's leaky roof look like pocket change. I'd sold off Grandpa's vintage lobster traps to cover treatments, but when the dust settled, I clawed my way back. Inherited the deed from Aunt May, who passed without kids, and poured every overtime hour from my day job at the boatyard into renovations. By 2020, Ellis Bakery was reborn, crusty loaves of rye studded with local clams, cinnamon rolls that drew lines out the door on weekends, the kind of place where fishermen swapped tall tales over coffee black as ink. Finn and I needed this. He was all gangly limbs and quiet sketches now, filling notebooks with drawings of puffins and schooners, but Nora's absence echoed in every empty chair at the breakfast table. The bakery was our anchor, mornings filled with the rhythmic thump of dough on the board, afternoons with the chatter of locals griping about quota cuts. It smelled like home, vanilla extract and wood smoke, with an undercurrent of sea salt that clung to your skin like a promise. Losing it, that wasn't just a business threat. It was erasing the last thread connecting Finn to his mom, who used to sneak him dough scraps shaped like boats. Enter Evelyn Hargrove, the queen of contrived crises. She wasn't from Harbor's End blood, no, she summered here as a girl from some Philadelphia trust fund, married a lobster baron who drank himself into an early grave, and decided widowhood meant canonizing herself as village guardian. Mid-50s, with skin like porcelain cracked by too many facials, she drove a spotless Range Rover that screamed "I summer here, but winter in Palm Beach." Evelyn founded the Heritage Preservation Society 5 years back, right after I reopened the bakery. Ostensibly, it protected our charming maritime aesthetic from chain stores and condos. In reality, it was her personal fiefdom, a way to lord over the unwashed locals who didn't summer in the Hamptons. She hated the bakery on site, called it an industrial blight because of the chimney, Grandpa's original, belching faint wisps of flour dust on windy days. Never mind that it powered the oven that baked half the village's wedding cakes. Evelyn's motivation: control, pure and simple. Inherited wealth had insulated her from real work, so she filled the void with busybodying. Public records were her crystal ball. She dug up Nora's obituary and my financials faster than a tide rip. To her, a working-class widower scraping by on bakery sales and boatyard shifts was a stain on her vision of Harbor's End as a curated retreat. Vulnerable check. No fancy lawyer double check. She saw easy prey and pounced. It started small, the way these things do, like a leak you ignore until the ceiling caves. Week 1 after reopening, a courtesy notice taped to my door at dawn, the paper damp with dew and reeking of her perfume. Chimney emissions exceed aesthetic guidelines. Cease operations or face assessment. I chuckled, figuring it was a mix-up, and tossed it with the eggshells. Finn and I opened at 6 a.m. sharp, the bell above the door jingling like wind chimes, locals filing in for sticky buns that left sugar crystals on the scarred oak counter. By week 3, escalation. Evelyn's first inspection hit during the lunch rush, me elbow deep in pie crust, the air thick with butter and blueberry steam, when she marched in with 2 society volunteers, her bridge club cronies, pearl clutching and wide-eyed. "Mr. Ellis," she announced, voice slicing through the chatter like a filleting knife, "your signage is garish. That hand-painted fresh from the seaboard, it evokes fish markets, not heritage charm. Remove it by Friday, or 200 fine." The volunteers nodded like bobbleheads, scribbling notes on clipboards that smelled of fresh Sharpie. I wiped my hands, the flour dusting my jeans like fresh snow, and met her gaze. "Evelyn, this sign's been up since my grandpa painted it in '52. It's heritage." She sniffed, lips pursing like she'd bitten a lemon. "Heritage evolves, dear. Or it crumbles." She swept out, her rain boots clicking on the salt-streaked porch, leaving a wake of awkward silence. Old man Thibodeau, nursing his coffee at the counter, muttered, "That woman's got more rules than a nun's habit," and slid me a 10 for an extra scone, his way of saying hold the line. But she didn't stop. Oh no. Evelyn weaponized the society like a harpoon. Monthly fines started piling up, 150 for excessive foot traffic disturbing seabirds read, our morning line of fishermen, 75 for inauthentic aromas wafting into the public right-of-way the smell of baking bread, apparently a misdemeanor. She filed noise complaints with the town clerk about the oven's industrial hum which was just the fan whirring like a contented cat. Then came the anonymous tips to health inspectors, unhygienic practices at Ellis Bakery. Cue a surprise visit mid-rush, the inspector poking at my spotless sinks while Evelyn coincidentally power walked by, binoculars in hand, logging every flour sack. I countered with what I knew, grit and ledgers. Nights after closing, with Finn sketching at the kitchen table and the harbor lapping like a lullaby outside, I'd pore over town ordinances by lamplight, the smell of cooling loaves mingling with ink and chamomile tea. Turns out, the Society's code was a 20-page pamphlet Evelyn self-published, not a lick of legal backing. I started a log, photos of her inspections, her lurking by the dumpster at dawn, thermos of artisanal tea in hand, timestamps of fines arriving like clockwork on the 15th, witness statements from customers who'd seen her coaching her cronies on how to spot violations. Humor kept me sane. Finn and I dubbed her the chimney witch, and I'd joke to regulars, if bread's a crime, lock me up with the baguettes. Tension built like a squall line. By month 3, she'd rallied half her book club into a petition drive, knocking on doors with clipboards that reeked of lavender lotion, claiming my bakery devalued the district by 12%. Lies, of course property values had ticked up since I reopened, thanks to the